like money, motherfucker? Money be green. Money feel like money. That shit look green to you?
Channels. All right, now let's get to the main event. This one is a sneaky good fight. Shakur Stevenson minus 1,300 versus Edwin De Los Santos, a plus 720. Brian, before you let us know your bet, is this line a little bit disrespectful for Edwin De Los Santos? Because I truly believe he has a chance in this fight.
I mean, if you think he does, then you're betting him to win by knockout anyway. So I don't think this is like, I mean, yes, it's disrespectful, but I think there's a reason for that. And people see Shakur Stevenson, odds makers see Shakur Stevenson in particular as close to unbeatable. And I just don't think that they're going to look at Edwin De Los Santos' skill set and be like, all right, he can catch Shakur Stevenson. He's good enough to, you know, with his power to find a way to catch Shakur Stevenson. It's more like shit can happen. Here's plus 720. I don't think they're banking.
That's the best breakdown. Shit can happen.
Yeah, I don't think they're banking on him having the ability to sort of break Shakur Stevenson down. They're just like, hey, if he gets him with a home run shot, okay. But yeah, I mean, boxing markets aren't always the sharpest, but I do think Shakur Stevenson is going to win this fight. And, you know, getting to my pick from there, the conventional wisdom suggests Shakur Stevenson should win this by decision at minus 270, 250. That's where you're seeing it right now, depending on where you look. Not great straight up, unless you're putting a lot of money on it. But even so, I thought Shakur Stevenson was going to beat Shuichiro Yoshino by decision earlier this year, and he kicked his ass in 6 rounds, which was one of his best performances of his career to this point. But I do think he's going to win this by decision. What I'm probably going to do is parlay the Emmanuel Navarrete knockout with Shakur Stevenson's win by decision. And hopefully those two fight each other after. But I think Shakur Stevenson wins this on points, and I think that's a reliable parlay leg as opposed to playing it straight up unless you're putting a certain amount of money on it.
Yeah, I think this one for me, I think it is Shakur Stevenson's toughest test. You could also say Jamel Herring. You could also say Valdez was one of his toughest tests, but I think this is another tough test for Shakur Stevenson, and I got to give him props for that because he is fighting dudes and he's not afraid. And you talked about Yoshino. That was a fight where I was like, yo, Yoshino's got power, though. And Shakur
I'm like that
Stevenson,
for this one, too, though. Edwin De Los Santos is good. It's just Shakur Stevenson's on a different level, in my opinion.
Listen, Shakur Stevenson, we know how good he is defensively as well. He doesn't lose many rounds at all. Very skilled. And I feel like we're seeing his power transcend as he moves up in weight class, just like how Bud Crawford's did as he moved up to welterweight. Now we're seeing really Shakur Stevenson really grow into his body, and we're seeing that power now. Now, how do I think this fight is going to go? I think Shakur Stevenson, because of his skill, because of how good he is defensively, he rarely loses rounds. I do think Shakur is going to win by decision. However, when I take a look at Edwin De Los Santos, he's 16-1, 14 of those wins coming by way of knockout. His one loss is against William Foster. That was a split decision. And the only way that I think he can win this fight is if he makes it a brawl, because he's not going to outbox a guy like Shakur. So the one fight that I go back to is the Jose Valenzuela fight. And that was a fight where he ended up knocking out Jose Valenzuela. But the way that he fought him, that's how he has to fight Shakur Stevenson, because he was being the aggressor. He was using his speeds. He knows how to use his angles really, really well. And he was trying to brawl in that fight. He has to try to brawl against Shakur Stevenson and make it a tough fight for a guy like Shakur. And I think that's the only way that Edwin De Los Santos is going to win, because he is a power puncher. And if he makes it difficult, if he is that aggressor, if he uses that same fight style as he did against Valenzuela, I think Edwin De Los Santos has a chance. Do I think it's going to happen? No, but I have to say that because Edwin De Los Santos, I don't think should be taken lightly in this fight. I think he might give Shakur Stevenson some problems, especially if he goes with that exact game plan. So listen, Shakur by I'm taking Shakur by decision, minus 250. I don't think Shakur stops Edwin De Los Santos, but I think Edwin De Los Santos actually has some very, very good moments in this fight.
Again, Shakur by decision, not straight up. Don't tell people that TheMandatory gave you a minus 250 bet as a parlay leg because, you know, I mean, it kind of is what it is. We can't give you the over-under because the over-under is 10.5 and the over is like minus 400. I'm not even exaggerating. If Shakur Stevenson is going to win this by stoppage, There are some interesting group round sort of bets that may be sprinkle worthy. If you think he's going to do it sort of in the middle as he did with Yoshino, between rounds 4 through 6 plus 900, between rounds 7 through 9 plus 750, between rounds 10 through 12 plus 1100. 10 through 12 might be the one where I'm like a little bit intrigued by, but I ultimately think he sort of plays keep away here and just uses his range. I think Edwin De Los Santos is tough. I also think Edwin De Los Santos could like win a couple of rounds here.
He might
Maybe catch Shakur Stevenson once or twice. But as powerful as he is and as skilled of a puncher as he is, will he be able to find Shakur Stevenson? Or is Shakur Stevenson going to engage more because he's feeling that strength, that sort of confidence in his power after getting a stoppage at lightweight already? And is he going to exchange more? And will that serve him well? Or will that open up, his self to get hit? Or will it even heighten the chances of him getting a knockout? I think this is a fight that you have a bet early on, like Shakur by decision to play it safe.
Yeah.
But then you live bet as the fight progresses. I'm going to definitely look to live bet after the first couple of rounds because I've been pretty good at that lately. I'm not going to lie.
So my only question heading into this fight is Shakur Stevenson has given us some very entertaining fights as of late. But against a guy like Edwin De Los Santos, who, if he makes it a brawl and gives Shakur some problems, what Shakur Stevenson are we going to see? Because we know how good Shakur is, but sometimes we've seen him in the past play it a little bit safe. Like against Nakatila, where people came out of that fight and they were like, oh, that was kind of a boring fight. Why did I watch that? I don't think we're going to get that type of fight. But if Edwin De Los Santos starts to put it on a guy like Shakur and is landing on Shakur, which, by the way, very tough to land on a guy like Shakur Stevenson, it's going to be interesting how Shakur fights. Like, I want to see what his style is going to be. And because I think if he is growing into that power, we might see Shakur be a little bit more aggressive. Which I think is a possibility in this fight. So, I am going to take Shakur Stevenson by decision right now on FanDuel. It's a minus 250. Not the best bet, but it's a safe one because that's how I think it's going to go. You could live bet later on, yeah.
Also, Edwin De Los Santos, interestingly enough, 2 inches more on his reach, 70 inches. But typically it doesn't matter because Shakur Stevenson fought dudes with longer reaches than him before. He's not always the biggest guy when he fights. But he also fights sort of bigger than he is, especially with his range, because he understands range. So I wonder how's he going to navigate that, and is Edwin De Los Santos going to be able to sort of figure that out and maybe time Shakur Stevenson a little bit differently than past opponents?
I definitely think if he has to brawl him, not box him. You're not going to outbox a guy like Shakur, like I mentioned. So he has to take that same game plan as he did against Jose Valenzuela and fight Shakur like that. And if he does fight Shakur like that, then we might see Shakur have some problems. But nonetheless, we're both taking Shakur Stevenson. Bryan's letting us know he's going to be live betting. And we want to know how you're going to be betting this fight. Are you rolling with Shakur? Are you rolling with Edwin De Los Santos? Let us know. Drop some comments below. Also, follow us on our social media channels. We're at TheMandatory TKO. And if you haven't already, hit that like button, hit that subscribe button. And also make sure to follow us and subscribe on the audio side as well. Give us a rate and review. Leave us a 5-star. And thank you so much for supporting the show. Bryan, any final thoughts before we get up out of here?
Enjoy the fights. Don't go broke.